As a basketball player, are you a little anxious entering this upcoming basketball season? Are you unsure of your place on the team? Or maybe you're even trying out for a new team and you're unsure if the coach even knows you exist or who you are. Well, today I'm going to share from a coach's perspective a couple of different ways that you can really rely on to stand out to a coach and make sure that they notice you. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So we are approaching a new basketball season. We're approaching tryouts, if your team has tryouts. But the start of the season, it can be a stressful time for a lot of players. I know it was stressful for me as a player. I was always filled with some uncertainty, some self-doubt, especially as we entered the season, because I was really unsure of, am I going to make the team? What's my place on the team? And I always felt like coaches didn't necessarily notice me and what talent I was bringing to the table, the work I was putting in. I just always felt that way. And so I wish at the time I had somebody that would have given me some tips like I'm going to share with you today from a coach's perspective of what really stands out to coaches, especially at the beginning of the season, especially during tryouts. And I want to share, a couple of stories of players that I coached that stood out to me, that became players that were, some of my favorite players, and I really cheered on throughout their career. Although I cheered on all my players, there's some that stood out just immediately based on things they were doing. And these are things you can rely on that have zero to do with your basketball skills, with your shot going in, with anything like that. It, has to do with ways that you can stand out as a player to a coach. And these are some of the coach's favorites. So the first one, I was coaching a high school girls team. And now I knew a lot of players. I had my returning players. I had an incoming group of freshmen that were kind of, gonna be varsity players or really strong JV players, and they had maybe been playing over the summer with me. But when you're having tryouts, you're having open tryouts, there's all these new kids that show up, right? And maybe you're unaware of them. And who stands out? Well, I had some pretty tough tryouts. A lot of running, a lot of conditioning, a lot of, pushing these players. And, there was one player, not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, not the best shooting, not the best ball handling, not the tallest, ultimately not the most skilled. The first day noticed, but didn't, really stand out. Before the second day's tryouts, her dad came up to me. She probably doesn't know this story. I don't know if she knows or not, or knows that she was really one of my favorites throughout her entire career, and I was really rooting her on based on her standing out in this way. But her dad came up and said, hey, my daughter, during yesterday's tryouts, went in the bathroom and puked. I said, I didn't notice. She was right back on maybe she went to the bathroom, but she was out there. She was running liners, she was, hustling, never saw any complaints, never, didn't look like she was, had gone and gotten sick. He said, well, she did. I just wanted to let you know. Well, that let me know two things. One, I was probably being a little tough on some of these new players that hadn't been part of the summer conditioning program or hadn't been part of our program in the past and didn't, weren't used to that level of pushing them. So that made me aware of that, but it also made me aware of the mental toughness of this particular player. I watched her the second day, the third day, never a complaint, never we've got to run another liner. Oh, we've got to do another drill. Oh, we're going to go for another half an hour. okay? She had the mental toughness that I want you to have that stands out to coaches. Now, I don't want you to have to go throw up in order to stand out. And I don't want your mom or dad to have to go to the coach to point out your mental toughness. But I would have noticed this mental toughness. This mental toughness came from a place where it was like, you can't make this tough enough for me. Yeah, I might have to go throw up, but I'm right back out here. What you got now, coach? How much more are we going to run? How much more are we going to do? Just complete mental toughness. And this is a way to stand out from the majority of players, because the majority of players, it's human nature. Oh, we're going to do another conditioning drill. Ugh. Hanging the head, a little sigh, maybe a comment. Hey, I'll get back to the episode in just a second. I hope you're enjoying today's episode, and if you are, please share it. Share it with a player, share it with a parent, share it with a coach, anybody that you feel might need to hear it. I also wanted to give you a free gift that I've made available to you just for hanging out with me today. It's a checklist of skills for basketball players that want to become a better player, a better teammate, and to stand out to their coaches. Now, these skills are skills that are often overlooked, but they can be the foundation that a player can use to really achieve their goals. You can download it at hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. I'll put a link below in the description as well, but it's hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. Now let's jump back to today's episode. Show off your mental toughness by being the first one back on the line. Being the, first one volunteering to run a drill, okay? You can't make it tough enough on me, coach, okay? So you can show off. You can rely on your mental toughness. You can make your mental toughness a habit. And believe me, you will become a coach's favorite, just like this player became one of my favorites. This player never became a big star of the program, never, got a ton of varsity minutes, things of that nature. Didn't matter. It's one of my favorite players throughout her entire career. Just loved the mental toughness that she brought the program. And right after that, it was like, this player's going to be part of this program. There is no way I'm going to cut a player that has that kind of mental toughness. This player will definitely be part of the program as long as she wants to be part of the program. So that's one story and one aspect that you can bring forward that you don't have to be uncertain about. Maybe if your shot's going or if you're showing off your skills, show off mental toughness. The other story I want to tell you about is another player. It was a few years earlier than that. I was just taking over this program, and I noticed this player immediately during a summer league game I was watching. And it wasn't the shooting. It wasn't the ball handling. It wasn't the skill set. It was another habit that we've talked about in the past that you need to make a habit, and that was this player had an unbelievable mistake response. And what do I mean by mistake response? What happens when you make a mistake? Most players, when they make a mistake, there's a hesitation, there's a drop of the shoulders, maybe there's some comment about the mistake, but there's all this, even if it's a brief period of time, there's all this wasted time and energy right when the mistake happens. The energy level goes down. They maybe don't get back as fast. They waste time. Well, this player had the best mistake response I've ever seen of any basketball player ever. She makes a turnover. You better watch out if you're the person that stole that ball from her, because she's going to come and back tap it. Or she's going to get him and play the most ferocious defense you've ever seen in your life. She misses a shot. You better box her out, because she's going to be crashing that offensive board, right? She makes a mistake. She's going to be the first one back on defense. And that offense better watch out, because she's going to be playing like the equivalent of 3 defenders. She makes a mistake. She's going to be the first one up on offense on the break. It was an unbelievable response to any mistake, and it was a habit that she had developed over time. but you can be conscious of having a great mistake response as well. I saw the same thing from her in tryouts later on that year. I saw the same thing throughout her entire playing career. And that's why I never, as a coach, she was another favorite of mine. Now, she was also a varsity player, all league, one of our best players. Not because she was the most talented player. She was never our most talented player. But she had an unbelievable mistake response. And I never worried as a coach of having her in the game. I knew I can rely on having that player in the game at all times because she's going to make up for her mistake. She's not going to compound her mistake. She's going to increase her energy when a mistake happens. She's not going to decrease her energy and waste time. She's not going to complain. She never complained about making mistakes. She just made up for them. And that is the kind of player that instantly stands out to coaches. That's another thing that you can bring to the table during tryouts whenever you're starting the season, as you're carving out kind of your niche on the team. Have an unbelievable mistake response. If you bring two things you can rely on, you don't have to be nervous about. I'm going to bring incredible mental toughness. I'm going to be the most mentally tough player on this team. And I'm going to have the best mistake response on this team. You're going to stand out to your coach. Just like these two players stood out to me, and I was such a big fan of theirs throughout their careers. One that had a really kind of big career and one that didn't have a huge playing time career, but they were equally as important to our program. And so you don't have to be nervous about what's my game going to be like during tryouts. Is my shot going to be going and am I going to be on the top of my game? Don't worry about that as much. Control what you can control. And these are two areas that you can control. Make them a habit throughout your entire career. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully that helped kind of eliminate some of that self-doubt and anxiety that you might have entering the season. These are two areas that you can focus on. Always enjoy seeing likes if you found this valuable. Leave me a comment below if this has eliminated a little bit of that anxiety that you're having going into the season. And until next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.